You have to balance needing to grow with growing how fast, because one of the things that we do is our quality is really high. I would love to help everyone, but we want to grow sustainably and be smart about it.
Growing a company is complicated. We all know this. You have to be open to the twists and turns that growth throws at you. Today, my guest, Dr. Erica Armstrong, founder of Root Functional Medicine, is going to share with us her journey of growing from a functional medicine provider for individuals to founding a B2B tech enabled service company. And I'm sure there's lots of twists and turns in her story. So, welcome to the show, Dr. Erica.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is exciting. I love interviewing people and talking about the journey of starting and growing companies, but this one seems like very close to home. Let's start at the beginning. Why did you get into functional medicine?
I was a practicing family medicine physician, and about 5 years out of residency, I started to realize that all the things that I was taught were the right things to do, as far as, which medications, which
Mhm.
labs to check, which preventative measures um, were standard, weren't actually helping people get better and feel better. And a lot of the times, as primary doctors, you are the quarterback, and you send out referrals to specialists. But a lot of the times, the specialists don't have the answers as well. And then they end up kind of back in your lap saying, "What's next?" And I just felt like I really didn't actually have the tool set that I needed to help people truly get well. I wanted to use nutrition. I wanted to offer people some things that they could do to improve their health that were outside of the conventional toolbox. And so I found functional medicine through a friend, started training back in 2016.
Mhm.
Through Institute of Functional Medicine. And the more I learned, the more it made sense. Functional medicine is about finding the root cause so you can actually restore body function. And I started trying to piece it in with my current conventional family medicine practice, and it was very difficult to do so because of all the system limitations, the time and the access to the right testing, and then just the general mindset and the model
Mhm.
of care. And so I knew I really loved doing this kind of medicine. I knew it worked. People were getting great results from what seems like little interventions and changing nutrition. And I ended up leaving my kind of corporate hospital-based family medicine job to start Root as a very small medical practice. And I started it with a dietitian, knowing how important nutrition was at the root cause. And yeah, we were in a tiny co-working space, and no one had heard of functional medicine at the time. But it grew very rapidly, organically, to the point we moved twice in 1 year. And then what happened after that was we actually started getting people flying in to see us because of medical licensing. You have to be licensed where the patient is. And so they had to like physically come to a location in Grand Rapids, Michigan, where we were. And I thought, okay, this is obviously working. We're getting great results. And how can we scale it? How can we enable this easier than having to fly in here to Michigan?
Yeah.
And that is what kind of brought me to the point where we developed the technology and functional medicine company with expanded medical licensing and the right operating systems to actually really scale it.
Gotcha. So the demand, I think anyone listening to this is it's aware, I think at this point, at least, the demand has grown rapidly for functional medicine because the old traditional way of writing prescriptions for everything is just not working. I mean, everything that we put in our body matters, and then how we treat the symptoms or root cause of what we're doing matters as well. I have a family friend who is a nurse practitioner, and has raised now I think 5 kids, and several of her kids had allergies, like very, very bad allergies. And so she kind of took it upon herself to get into the world of functional medicine, being trained like traditionally in traditional medicine, and had to learn all of this stuff herself. And so, I'm a little bit closer to it maybe than your average person because I've heard these stories of her going down to a bone broth diet and building up, one thing at a time. I'm curious, and that helped tremendously. I mean, it was life changing for her and her family with all the ailments they were going through. I'm curious, to get some kind of maybe an example of, or another example of like what a family might be going through and what, how it changed their course of action.
Yeah, I mean, we have all kinds of different cases, and the things that functional medicine helps with, a lot of it is gut health, hormone
Hmm.
balance, autoimmune conditions, metabolic concerns, and we have this root cause whole person approach. So, say for example, someone came in with a hormone imbalance,
Hmm.
and typically, a conventional approach might be to just kind of override the whole system with a hormone medication.
Hmm.
We take a much broader approach to that, and we think about how body systems are connected. And so this person didn't only have hormonal acne and hair loss, she also had bloating and bowel symptoms and anxiety and headaches and all of these things that in conventional medicine you might have 4 or 5 different doctors helping you with and nobody's
Hmm.
talking. But we break it down when we're finding the root cause. And so often for hormones we actually start in the gut, because you have to
Hmm.
optimize gut health to optimize hormonal health. There's lots of different ways those two interact, but the gut is involved in the metabolism of estrogen. The microbiome can create or help lower inflammation, which is involved in the way our hormones are communicating. It helps you absorb healthy fats. LDL is actually the substrate, the beginning part of making hormones. So if you don't have healthy fats being absorbed, you're not going to be able to make adequate hormones, especially like estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone.
Hmm.
And so, just putting that whole picture together and looking at inflammation in the gut, looking at certain food sensitivities that might be driving it, microbiome balance. This individual actually had a very low beneficial bacteria because of a history of multiple antibiotic rounds for acne. And so it kind of set her up for other symptoms. And so as we repaired and restored the microbiome, and we put her on some nutrients to help her make her own hormones. She started to have skin clearing. Her hair was regrowing. She felt like a different person. In her mind, she feels like we saved her life because she was feeling so bad about
Yeah.
herself and everything she was going through. And this wasn't like an acute intervention. This was like slower medicine, right? Like digging for root causes. But ultimately, that approach, she's still feeling well 4 years later instead of being stuck on the same medication or escalating doses.
Yeah, that's amazing. And what is the adoption like, for an individual where, I mean, it would appear that if someone has all these medical ailments or physical ailments, and you take them through this process and they are now well, I would think, they'd be very thankful. They have a new lease on life. Like, this is what life should be like. But then how much do they stick to that plan, and not go back to their habitual way of life?
Yeah, this is one of our core practices at Root. Is we actually, what we do is sustainable. It's in our mission statement: sustainable and validated
Okay.
root cause medicine. And so the things that we teach, you can keep applying forever. They help you now, and they help you later. So, like for example, one of our nutrition principles is we use the root plate, and it's a balance of your protein, healthy fat, and fiber. And then you could do this, anywhere you were, and all snacks and all meals would be balanced. And balanced blood sugar is something that once you figure out how much better you feel with balanced blood sugar, you want to keep eating like that. So it is
That's right.
very sustainable. I will say people don't need the higher level of intensity once they're better, but they still continue to check in. They check in on their labs once a year,
Hmm.
just to make sure things don't ever go back to the place that
Yeah.
they were.
Yeah, it's good, and it's kinda nice that you put the control back in their hands, because if they kind of relapse back to eating McDonald's every day, let's say, and things kinda go out of whack, at least they know that they are making those poor decisions that are leading to that outcome, and they have control over it versus, a prescribed way where they have to follow the lead of someone who's given them something to quote unquote fix, and there's just more and more pills that usually follow, or procedures that follow, and they're not really in control of that path.
You start to connect. the way that you eat with the way you feel, and that's
Hmm.
very empowering. Whereas a
Hmm.
lot of times when people have just been feeling like that way for a long time, they start to think that's just their normal, and they don't make the connection as clearly as they do after we teach them this new way. And then if they go back, like, oh yeah, that's how I used to feel, so
Yeah.
now I'm making this connection and I am in control of this.
Yeah, I think that's huge for adoption long term and sustainability. I know for me personally, I don't have a lot of any major illnesses or ailments, thankfully. But to keep my weight under control and my energy levels high, I've tested or experimented with different diets and different kind of ways of eating. And the thing that has worked the best for me is a high fat, low carb diet, like a keto. Being in ketosis or fat adapted specifically. Longer the better. Even though those are kind of not fully sustainable diets because you want to eat bread, but um, I've realized that just exactly what you're saying in a smaller way is that if I am in ketosis and following that path, I feel amazing. I have lots of energy. I sleep really well. All of these things are going. And then if I start incorporating what I thought were just more carbs, I start to, my sleep declines, energy levels go down. But I realize it's not necessarily carbs. It's the unhealthy carbs. It's the all the things that are in the processed carbs that I'm eating that are inflaming my body. That's the key. And so now I feel empowered, like you said. Like I don't necessarily have to be super strict on keto, but I know what will get me to optimal health and energy on a day to day basis. And if I'm not doing that, then it's kind of on me.
Yes, 100%. That's a good illustration, your personal story.
Now, okay, so we got to the point of you're working what we call B2C, like you're working with end users, patients, and you realize that the technology essentially is the limiting factor. It is the barrier to using a business term, scaling, but really, taking this solution to more people, genuinely. So tell me about how you decided to go from being a practitioner to, starting a tech enabled company.
Yeah, when I was figuring out how to scale, I approached an investor friend I had known from a previous job, and I actually asked him that, how can I scale this? Should I even like consider an investment? Because I had a nice little, medical practice business.
Hmm.
I was happy with the results people were getting, but I just knew that we could do so much more and the impact that we could have would be profound. And we went through a few different ways on how we could scale, and ultimately ended up on a tech enabled service company because I was explaining that, there's not really a great EHR built for
Hmm.
functional medicine that allows you to, you know, include your own processes
Hmm.
in it and built by like
As a
actual root
physician.
cause clinicians,
Yeah.
built for wellness planning and nutrition and supplements, and also that had a great member or consumer facing interface that was really seamless. And at Root, we were a membership model. So that's very different
Hmm.
from like a conventional EHR is more of like fee for service and
Hmm.
insurance billing. And we didn't need that type of
Yeah.
bells and whistles. But what we needed was a really efficient technology operating system from start to finish, like
Mm.
from the membership hosting through the adding visits through the lab interface, where it was one login and doctors didn't have to like have three different logins.
Yeah.
Doctors really don't like that. We don't have time for three different
No.
logins and you need everything in one spot.
Right.
Um, and also to enable doctors to spend less time charting. And in functional medicine, our visits are longer. And so that ends up in longer notes sometimes. So succinct clinical processes that we've developed that can be personalized, built on that. Piecing together three or four different softwares was not going to work long term on a scalable. So we had to do it actually from scratch, and so we're still building it. Pieces are being released as we go, and they'll continue to be released over the next year. But for all of that, we did end up taking, a VC investment because building technology is expensive, and
Hmm.
also medical licensing is expensive to get and to maintain. And so we're actually licensed in 48 states now, and so that's a big project and a piece of what our operations does.
Gotcha. Okay, so you are building a platform that's helping other functional medicine providers and other traditional medical providers. Is that correct?
Right now, it's all in the root ecosystem.
Okay.
Yes, so it's
Only your physicians.
yes.
Gotcha.
Now,
Okay.
yes.
And so you are currently still serving patients directly. Is that right?
Yes, we have direct memberships for individuals,
Okay. And
and
then,
we also have corporate sponsored memberships through employee benefits.
yeah. Okay. So that's opened up the B2B side for you. And I want to talk about that now. Like going from serving individuals individually to the companies that they're most people are working for getting benefits from. Where did that door open?
This was completely organic, and I always credit this very insightful business owner here in Grand Rapids. We got an email from her in 2023 that said, "I love functional medicine. I want to consider this for
Mm.
my, 300 employees as a manufacturing company." And I was like, "This is a great idea. We should look into this." And we worked with her to devise chronic disease reversal programs and went through a pilot study. And now we had people who had never heard of functional medicine or maybe even had ever had nutrition visits, and we worked with them on things like autoimmune conditions, gut health, hormonal issues like PCOS, metabolic things. And the people in this pilot study actually they did amazing.
Hmm.
And it was challenging for them because they were on the road, they were on site, they were in manufacturing, and so we had to meet them where they were at and do steps that helped. And ultimately, at the end of the year, we looked at their health claims year over year from the year prior to root and then the year with root, and they
Hmm.
were down by 45%.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. And so we always knew it worked clinically, but then we saw that,
Yeah.
financial ROI, and we're like, okay, we've got to keep doing this.
Yeah.
So we had two companies at the end of last year. We're up to eight now in the
That's
first
awesome.
quarter of this year. So it's taking off.
Yeah.
And we work with both self-funded
Hmm.
companies,
Hmm.
so companies that are paying their own employees medical claims, as well as the regular fully insured,
Hmm.
for different reasons. So we really can help control costs on the self-funded side. And the fully insured, you have a lot of people who just aren't really using their conventional health benefits. They
Hmm.
would rather work with someone like a functional doctor. They would rather have convenient lab ordering. And so it's really on like a recruitment, retention, and developing a healthier workforce for productivity on that side.
Makes total sense. So the marketer in me is kind of noodling on this adoption of your service when it's been put in by an employee or employer versus the demand coming from the actual end user with a chronic illness. That makes a lot of sense because you have high demand because, hey, my life is crazy and I want to fix things. So I'm looking for every options. I'm open. There's demand. But if you are then transplanted into an organization and the HR, manager or the CEO or whomever is saying, or even you coming in and saying, "Hey, we've potentially got solutions for you that could help you live a healthier life." What is that conversation like? And how do you open up those conversations for people to be interested in this new idea about their health?
It was a challenge because a lot of people are still catching on to root cause or functional medicine. And there's a lot of
Hmm.
inconsistencies out there in what they think it might be.
Hmm.
And people are saying they're practicing it, but it's not the same way that we
Right.
are at root.
Yeah.
And so there's a ton of education that happens. But it's getting easier and easier the more people that we've talked to. And now that we have some, data behind and some
Hmm.
experience behind working with companies, we also have met brokers along the way who's like, hey, what they're doing at Root is working. And I have
Yeah.
these other, companies that could benefit. And so they've been so helpful in helping us grow that as well, which
Hmm.
is mutually beneficial because hopefully it
For
helps
sure.
them have great solutions to offer.
Yeah, the broker agent route is the way to go, I think, especially for that initial kind of market penetration because they know their clients hopefully really well, and that's your market you want to go to. So that's a great kind of bridge to build. And then when you get in there, and how do you approach it? I've been in this environment before in a previous consulting role where we were doing employee benefits and we were working with small companies. So you go in and you talk to the employees about what's offered coming up in enrollment, et cetera, et cetera. How do you approach that from knowing that a lot of people might have not sure exactly what this is or think it's something that's not.
Yeah, yeah, getting the employees engaged. It's really fun actually. It's one of the most fun parts of my job is when we do get a new account, we'll either present online or go in person and we do some education about, our nutrition method
Hmm.
and usually people's eyes just open up like they feel like they can do it when they hear that we're
Hmm.
not going to like take everything away from them at
Yeah,
once
yeah, yeah,
and we're an addition mindset, meaning what can you add to your plate versus restrict.
yeah.
So if you add veggies, you're naturally going to eat less of the other
That's right.
stuff
Yeah,
on your plate.
yeah.
So I think people are excited to have something different. And
Hmm.
typically at the end of every one of these presentations, we have people coming up to talk to us and wanting to learn more. So
Yeah, that's great. So the educational curve is probably pretty pretty steep at the beginning, and it takes some time to continue back, or am I wrong?
yeah, there's some simple things that they can do right away that help, and then
Mhm.
doing the lab testing is really helpful. So in our root cause panel, we find things all the time that are,
Yeah.
affecting people's energy levels like vitamin D. We find other nutrient deficiencies. We find a ton of insulin resistance. And so these people with insulin resistance have blood sugars that are unstable all day. So they feel tired and brain foggy and
Yep.
craving sweets. And so some of those interventions are really quick. And as soon as we
Mhm.
can show them that these little things are helping them,
Mhm.
they keep going. It's like a spiral and then they continue to adapt. And we work with them over the period of a year or two. So we do have time to get them to optimal health, but there's the progression of some quick wins and then some setbacks. Everyone has setbacks
Sure,
and then
yeah.
we're there for that and then eventually, we get them to a point that's very sustainable for them.
That makes a lot more sense when you talk about the labs as a sort of jumping off point, like that turning point. If you can get them to do the labs, then you have actual data you can speak to that's contextual to their situations. Because I'm thinking about, my friend, and I'm thinking about other people I've talked to that have this has been successful for them. But even with demand, it is kind of like, where do we start? It just seems like so big of a task to do. And it seems like it has to be a very customized plan. And so getting all of that done and it not being so bespoke for so many people, I mean, to scale, you have to have a jumping off point, which I think is critical. Is that sort of what your first step is? Say, hey, we want to get some data so we can at least help you.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Starting with data, like data-driven decisions. We make a lot of data-driven
Yeah.
decisions in our company. So,
Yeah.
if you're the CEO of your body, you need the right data to get
That's
started
right.
so you don't waste time on the wrong interventions.
Yeah. Love that. Okay. Tell me about maybe a case study or two of companies you work with and kind of the outcomes that came from the work you guys did.
Yeah, I think some of our biggest success stories are the autoimmune cases.
Mm,
And so things like psoriatic arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, conventional medicine, they're often just placed on a medication without any thought about how diet might be at play here or interacting or are causing some of the way that they feel. And it's not just diet. There's hormone
mhm.
balance as well, especially in women who are much more prone to autoimmune conditions. And so when we get some of these people in our self-funded plans, they're often on medications that can cost like $60,000 a year.
Wow.
And there's no end in sight for them, really. They're just told, like, this is what your med is, and you're stuck on it for life. And so, our model, each person has both a doctor and a dietitian when we in our chronic disease programs. And so, the doctor is there overseeing this
Mhm.
and interpreting the advanced testing. The dietitians are really the core key person here and
Yeah.
helping people be successful. Because, for example, if we see something like a gluten sensitivity, or if we have a new autoimmune um, clients who have never had a celiac panel done, that's like step one. Like,
Yeah.
because they're so much more likely to have celiac disease as a driving, and that's just kind of completely overlooked in conventional healthcare. And
Wow.
so we do find celiac, or we find that they don't have celiac but they have non-celiac gluten sensitivity, and
Hmm.
sometimes we have to take out those food sensitivities. We have to give them the right nutrients so that their immune system can be supported to start to heal.
Yeah.
And then we have to look at gut health, because autoimmune conditions most often do start in the gut with intestinal permeability, and then things come through that activate the immune system. They look like other parts of the body, and your body starts to interact. So if we put that together, like nutrition, gut microbiome, hormone balance, sometimes stress is a big factor here too. We get people in a spot where they're feeling pretty great, and usually like around 6 months they're like, I don't know if I need, this medication anymore. And
Hmm.
it's shared decision making. And we have to follow that closely, because it's not
Sure.
always safe to take someone off autoimmune meds, but
Yeah.
they are used a lot. Sometimes we're not really sure why they were started in the first place, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
And so we get them in the spot, and then we carefully wean and we watch them and make sure they're still feeling great. And they often do feel a lot better off of them when they were on them,
Hmm.
especially if we've already treated and repaired the gut.
Okay, so if I'm a employee of a company that has invited you guys in, and I've met with one of your representatives, or I'm not sure exactly how that works, but I've signed up and I've gone starting to go through this process. Is there a specific doctor assigned to me in my case, and that they follow me through, or do I have kind of assigned to a group of doctors? Or how does that work?
Yeah, great point. Uh, you would be assigned to one doctor and one dietitian, and for the most part, you would follow with that. And that continuity, which
Hmm.
is really lacking in conventional care right
Yes.
now, is so helpful in behavior change. And that's part of the reason that we're able to coach people through for the years. They have this trust, and we get to know them really well.
Hmm.
We get to know, how to coach them, how they like to be coached. And yeah, they continue with that same team. I will say that also they have the rest of the root team rooting for them, we
There
say,
you go.
because the tough cases, we collaborate every week.
Uh,
Our doctors and dietitians get together. We review cases that need extra
that's
attention.
cool. Yeah,
We've got a bunch of minds,
that's really cool.
thanks.
I mean, it's so cool because it's hard to even get an appointment with your primary care doctor, let alone get them to care really about you. And that, this far distant future, you have anybody else thinking about your case. I mean, it's so night and day what you guys are building.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So let's switch gears here. I think it's amazing what you guys have put together, and I think it's really cool that there's enough demand in the market that's absorbing this, and people are adopting it. I think it's what people need, but getting people to take what they need is not always the case. Let's switch to the business side of things for our founders that are listening. What are you learning about this journey that you've been on growing this company? I mean, what are some of the challenges that have been in your way, and how are you plowing through those?
It's one challenge after another, as I'm sure all the founders can relate. When you think you have something solved, it will create other challenges. Gosh, I don't know where to start. We right after we got funding, we were part of the SVB potential disaster. I don't know if other founders can relate to that, but
Okay.
yeah, when SVB shut down, and I thought, oh, that was like so eye opening, that
Oh
like things can
yeah,
change in a
yeah.
blink that you might not be prepared for, and
Wow,
like
that is a big. Wow.
yes.
Yeah.
Um, so that was, one of I was a very new VC funded founder when that happened. So that
Yikes.
kind of set the tone to, being very strategic about
Uh huh.
things. And then, there's growing pains. So you have to balance needing to grow with growing how fast, because one of the things that we do is our quality is really high. And so I always have to like, I would love to help everyone. Like, would love
Hmm.
to grow with so many companies, but we have to be smart about it so
Hmm.
that we don't lose the thing that is our special about root in that we actually reverse disease. And so we just have to be cautiously growing,
Hmm.
which is, can be a challenge if you're funded by VCs because
Sure.
they see
Yeah, they
fast
have
approvals.
different
So
different
we want
charts.
to, yeah, we
Yeah.
want to grow sustainably. We want to help as many people as we can and
Yeah.
be smart about it.
What are you learning about sales specifically? Taking this B2B selling is a whole new thing probably for you since you were a physician.
Yeah. I do not have a sales background, but I did quickly learn that the founder just has to sell.
Hmm.
We have to do it. Nobody can communicate the vision quite like the founder.
Right.
And really, I think sales is about listening. And I
Hmm.
feel like we built our business on listening. That's one of the
Yeah.
things we all do really well. And
Yeah.
so just hearing where the pain points are
Hmm.
and then figuring out how you can help them. And you don't get to hear their pain points if you do a lot of the talking. And so I'm actually an introvert, and I thought that, yeah, I thought that was like
Yet
an
here you are.
obstacle for me
Yeah.
to get over. But actually, I think it kind of helps in sales
Yeah.
because I would rather have, like fewer, deeper
Fewer words.
connections where I really understand people and
Yeah.
can help them.
Yeah.
So ultimately, as painful as the sales process is, it's more about finding how you can help and
Mhm.
listening to someone. And I've come to enjoy that part of it now.
That's awesome, and it's such a great fit. You're totally right, and it's also a great, kind of jumping off the right foot for that relationship, where there's education involved and people are trusting you with their health and all of that. So, I think that's a perfect, perfect setup. Now, as far as you mentioned, you are taking your product to market through brokers. Are there other avenues you're taking to take your solution to end users?
It really has been mostly organic word of mouth.
Mhm.
Our website, because of all the articles we've written over the years, does get a lot of organic traffic. We also go to conferences
Mhm.
where we can meet other people looking for benefits. That's been a new thing we just started this year, and that's really great. We're usually the only ones doing root cause medicine, so it's fun to talk about and educate people that are at the conference.
Yeah. So where do you see your company going next? What stage are you in and kind of where stage are you headed towards?
Yeah, I think we'll always have individual members. That's how we started, and we can still help anyone, who wants to be helped. But I do see the majority of our growth being in this B2B space, as much as it shifted just in the first quarter
Mhm.
of this year. And I think that we can really enable a lot more access to this type of medicine when we go directly to employer. And when we do that too, it removes all those conventional barriers to why I could never get this to work in the hospital system.
Yeah.
You have a direct partnership with the companies who want to provide an amazing benefit to their employees. And
Yeah.
what we're finding is it's so uplifting. They truly care about the health
Yeah.
of their employees. And I think the more businesses we can reach, the more people we're going to reach overall.
100%. I think that direct connection is makes all the difference for where you're going with your business and where they're the benefit that they're getting. Even thinking about key people inside of their organization, they don't want them to be out sick. They don't want them to have all of these health problems. They want them to be healthy and working.
Mhm.
So you're providing immense benefit not only for the individual but for the company. So I think that's awesome. For the CEOs and founders out there that are running these companies, and they want a better solution or they want to look into something like this, what should they be looking at? If they're just offering traditional employee benefits, health insurance, and those kind of things, but they see that there's a need there, what would you say to them?
Yeah, I think, they probably know what their employee population has been struggling with it, whether it's mental health or
Hmm.
access to care, or, they have people that are bouncing around, just not feeling their best. And so what to look for, there's a lot of solutions out there. And I think a lot of them are what quote like point solutions. Like, you have this app if you have diabetes, you have, this mental health app, and you have these other, and that's overwhelming and confusing to people. And the big problem is people don't just have mental health issues, they also have hypothyroidism, hormone imbalance, gut health issues. And like I like solutions that are more holistic,
Mhm.
obviously. And so I think that it would be great to have something that every single person could benefit from. And the way that we devise them is we do have that kind of program where every single person can get access to this really advanced lab panel that they just either can't get through conventional healthcare, or they have to, go to 10 doctor's visits and negotiate and then have
Yeah.
surprise bills afterwards. So making that really extensive biometric screen that's actually really useful data and that we
Mhm.
can support people with afterwards,
Yeah.
that is a great benefit for the entire company. And then we find those folks that do need more, especially in our self-insured companies, the ones with chronic conditions that we can help and restore their health and then reduce their care costs.
Awesome. Okay, this has been amazing. I appreciate you sharing everything about your business and your journey and how you're helping people. And good on you for all the work you're doing. People want to find you. How can they find you, and how can they take next step with Root?
Our website is rootfunctionalmedicine.com, and we do have a for companies page and contact form on there. I'm also fairly active on LinkedIn, Erica Armstrong, MD.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, thanks again for coming on. This has been a great conversation, and I hope that lots of founders see this and look into what you're doing.
Thank you so much.